All right, everybody, welcome back to another breakdown. Today we are looking at this ad that couldn't be really further from the framework in sort of my own personal aesthetic, the things that I like. It just goes to show you that not everything has to look similar, right? Everybody that comments in the comment section about how, well, if you do this, it's all going to look similar, everything's going to look the same. That's not true, but this is what you get if you do the opposite. So I will leave it to you to decide what you like better. But we're going to be able to see, hopefully it helps us identify what we can do if we want to go the opposite way. If we want to do something a little bit more realistic or a little bit darker or a little bit moodier, it will help us in that regard. So let's jump in. We got TB here. He's talking to Gronk. They're in Florida and Boston, having the time of their life. It's quite bright and backlit and sun sandwich and the phone shot. Not the phone shot again. Yes. Hello, saturation, my old friend. And here we go, more sun sandwich. Tom in the corner. Let's do a dolly move. And you see where this is going, right? Different vibe altogether. Some people love this. Some people have built entire careers around this particular look, right? That's the beauty of cinematography. You go out, if you're the director, you get whoever you want for the job, okay? So let's jump into it. Okay, we're gonna really be talking about this outdoor scene here. Because, well, I guess we can do a little bit at the start too. Okay, where's the wide to this one? The wide to Tom in the room is, okay, here's that wide. And this is a great example of, you can get all of the elements of the framework, but if you just mix one up, you get vastly different results. Like things that are completely out of your control. You can no longer control the set, which means you are at the whim of whatever the location or the elements are giving you. And this is a great example of that. So for framework stuff, okay, we are shooting into the L of the room and we are lighting from the upstage window that you cannot see out of, right? So we're saying this one, this is where the light is shining through. It's hitting Tom. We got nice shape on Tom. We're shooting along the room to get all the depth. We're shooting through these things. It's not the world's shallowest depth of field, right? This looks a little bit like quite a deep stop, which is an interesting look for commercials. But you feel the vibe. Also, a little strange that we've got Tatooine going on with the giant backlight here that is hitting him here and creating these big shadows. And then you also have the front light, which is coming in this way. So you got the smush happening, which again, in interiors, the smush is a little bit easier versus daytime exteriors, but you still see it happening. But lots of stuff here that we always talk about is correct. There's lots of, not correct, it just follows what we often talk about. But what is the key difference? Can you spot it? Dun, 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 dun. Did you spot what's happening? We are shooting not into backlight. And you're saying, Patrick, it's inside. Why is backlight important? Because you have to identify what you can't control. And in this situation, we don't seem to be able to control these windows, right? There's a significant amount of tint here, but we can't ND this or we can't net this down. So now we have to balance everything to that outside window, which if it's getting blasted with front light, that ends up being a significant amount of level. So much light that you can't believe it. And the truck that you brought probably doesn't have enough lights in it to overcome that and bring it down to levels that you want. Also, the shape of the shadow back there just sort of kills any depth, right? Ideally, you would want the sun back there, over here, just out of the frame, shining this way, into it. So you get little tiny hot edges on the back here, and then darkness behind Tom, right? That's what that's like in the framework world, that is what you would be looking for a location. But here it doesn't happen. So you get light from this way and light from this way, and it just brings up the level so much that it's hard to create any sort of mood inside. But still, the ideas are all there except for that one backlight, the location look. So even if you're shooting interiors, always be thinking, where is the sun? The sun matters, because even if it doesn't affect your lighting in the local area, it does affect what you can't control, and that's that background back there. So now we go back to the start and we see this angle first up. Okay, so again, we've got our little lighting. He's looking up. We got upstage lighting. Lights coming from over there. Yeah, there's a big chunk over there that is nothingness. Got him parked over a little bit to the left, but that's the style that we're going with. It's just we have to balance to back here, which means we need a ton of light. These shadows are still just a little bit hard, and it's weird that light is coming from all over the place, right? But it's good shape on Tom. It's good shape on the light. It's just so much different than the stuff that we normally look at because of the elevated levels. Like this is really hot, right? You got giant heat here, but then he's quite elevated, right? In terms of exposure, there's a lot of level being hit at him. Like you could pull this down. Let's see what happens. you know, that sun back there, and then you just flatten out the contrast. Where are you, contrast, my old friend? You know, just to try and, it's like the squeeze and drop that we talk about sometimes. You just, yeah, just squeeze them a little bit more together rather than having that expanded exposure, which you see here, right? There's that big gap of nothingness in here, and not a lot down in the toe. But you got some of the elements correct. Then if we go into the outdoor shot, let's see this. This is that phone shot, right? Another phone shot. And this is just minus the shape. So you feel like, okay, if you want it a little bit more high key, you know what to do. You just lift all the levels around. And you can see, again, when you do have that such shallow depth of field, it ends up looking really, really flat back there. Let's go to the sun stuff. Okay, we're gonna do the move down. We're gonna crane down, perfectly timed backlight. Where is the sun? Just here, right? You can feel it up here, hitting him. We're getting, everything is good here. Backlight, we're set up for the win. We're gonna do the sun wrap, right? Which the sun wrap is gonna be sun over here. And then we're gonna place our bounce. When we go in for the close-up, we're gonna place our 12 by of ultra bounce right over here. And we're gonna stick up our neg along this side of the image, right? So you can imagine the camera is now gonna be here for the close-up, right? We'll be on like a 50 millimeter, and camera will be in there, neg on this side, bounce on this side, and we're gonna have the sun wrap. That would be sort of in line with other things that we have seen. This is the sandwich. So we come in, ta-da, okay. So we've got still our hard light sun. We're still lighting upstage. The lighting's still coming from upstage, right? He's looking this way. Key light is coming from that direction. And you can see we're getting a little bit of level on that other cheek, but man, we are getting some serious return here as well, right? This is not the natural shadow fall off. And this is pushing a ton of level back at him. You can feel how filly it is, again, in relation to the background, right? It all starts to get really, really close together. The levels are just so hot that it can be hard to deal with. Now, if you don't like this, the separation here, what you can do, you have to start with the thing that you can't control, and that is the sun, right? If you cannot take care of this highlight here, well, then you're pretty much stuck in this world. It can get really extreme on the contrast because you could add neg and things could get way darker on the shadow side. But if you cannot control that hotspot, it makes it really, really hard to lower everything else and just create that low nuanced toe of the curve. So you could do that easily if you had, you know, just an overhead shot like this size. You just have an overhead because you can't see the ground, so you won't be able to see the shadow that you create with the overhead. And you soften that off with like a highlight, and then you can bounce around and do the sun wrap like we always do, right? There's easy solutions to do that. This one, oh yeah. So we go from hot sun, right, on that side. We're gonna come over here, shoot over the shoulder this way. But what do we end up doing is now we're lighting from this direction, right, which cuts off all of our shape. Now we have shadow on this side of the hand. This is the shadow side of the hand, right? And in most examples, you'll see the exact opposite of this, especially when you go from, you know, you set yourself up perfectly here, and then you go to this one, and now we're lighting the other direction. So it's just, again, you may love this look. If this is the look that you like versus the other stuff that we have looked at, well, this is how you do it. You reverse everything that we talked about. So rather than keeping the key light up here, having the edge, and then having mostly shadow, this is having mostly fill with a tiny bit of shadow, right? Like the polar opposite of what we normally talk about. And then we come out, again, you feel how much level is coming back at him. There's just a whole lot of fill. And back to the phone, and back down again, right? You're like underneath the camera, you can feel the bounce that is coming basically just at him. Even though we have all of the signs of backlighty frameworking, it's also the ground. Like because we're shooting at such a deep stop, and the ground is entirely green because it's all grass, it just is really, really hard to pick him out and tell him where to look. Again, same here, right? Like, okay, especially in a shot of this close, like this, what is this, like an 85 or 100 mil? Just over here, you can have just a 4x of highlight to take that down. Then maybe you still get the same level out of the bounce from over here, but then you can get the shadows way, way, way darker. Maybe you can get just a little tiny edge on this side too. Entirely up to you. But that's just a look at the different levels, right? The different balances, the different ratios. As long as you know what this looks like and you choose it, well then, okay, you like this look. That's cool. You know how to do it. You know how to do it real easy. But if you want something a little bit more, a little bit moodier, a little bit more real life, slightly less saturation, well, then you would be looking to not have this in the background, right? Like this is a no-no. If you're looking on the Tech Scout and you see that when you're going to be shooting this particular angle, the sun is over there, that's when you pull the first AD aside. Listen, I know that we have to be here, but what if instead of shooting 1 day, we shot 2 days on the schedule? That would be better, wouldn't it? And they say no, and then you end up with this look. Okay, so anyway, that's our look at something a slightly different than the framework, and you be the judge. You say, okay, if you want high key and much fill, this is it. If you want a little bit moodier, a little bit played more down, you know exactly where to place those levels and where to place the lamps and the talent relative to those levels to get the desired outcome. So that is our look at the Tom Brady commercial from the Super Bowl. Next video is going to be what I thought was the best commercial of the lot, not in terms of story and everything like that, but the best looking, no surprise, veteran listeners of the podcast and people that follow along on the YouTube breakdowns will know immediately who shot it just by looking at the thing, but it is really, really well done and couldn't be more opposite than this. So that is for next time. Many thanks for checking it out, and we will see you in the